So we bought the property in 2009, and we were weekenders for a long time. We just sold our store recently and retired to move up here and have our homestead. I don't know how many years later it was, but we saw signs about the pipeline, stop the pipeline, no pipeline through the springs, that kind of stuff, and we didn't really know what it was about. And then they went away, so we thought that the problem had gone away also. And it wasn't until this year, actually last year, about October 2015, that a friend of mine on Facebook was begging for people to come to a public meeting in Bell about the pipeline installation under the Santa Fe River, that we decided to go and find out more information and speak our mind about how dangerous we thought that was. And you actually spoke at that.
I actually spoke at that meeting, yeah. And I was one of, must have been 95% of the speakers or 98% of the speakers that was against the pipeline for one reason or another. The only people that seemed to come up for the pipeline at that meeting were paid union representatives talking about all the jobs it was going to bring. And that was it. They listened to us all. They took all our information. They made notes. And I don't think it really had any impact whatsoever.
Was there, in fact, a lot of local employment? When I look at the trucks and the license plates on the people who are working here,
they're all Texas. They're all Texas and Mississippi and, yeah.
Arkansas, Maine, Oregon.
The only people locally that are employed are officers doing private duty. That's about it. Seems like it hasn't really brought anything. I don't see that once they're gone there's any kind of extra work either. There's some monitoring jobs maybe. I don't even know if they're local.
Right. But, or the poor soul that has to go out and detect where the leak is and get blown to smithereens. That might be the local guy.
I saw a website a while ago that showed a map, and it wasn't of this area, but it was in general, and it showed an incineration zone and then an evacuation zone. And I looked and I thought, well, we'd be in the evacuation zone for this pipeline. But since then, Cindy has said that this is a bigger pipeline than they put in the past, and she's concerned that we're really in the incineration zone.
We could be. I can't find any information on this pipeline's incineration zone. It's 36 inches. It's huge. It's going to have I don't know how much pressure it's going to have. They're moving 1 billion gallons per day of natural gas through there, so I can't even imagine if it blows. I can't find any information, so I don't feel as safe as I did. Evacuation would be one thing, but even if we're in the evacuation zone, who's going to notify us? We've not had any correspondence from anybody regarding this.
It's not going to be a pleasant place to live anyway. I mean, even if we get away with it, it's not going to be a lovely place to be with a burnt-out forest next door and no water supply.
Half our neighbors gone. I mean, we don't know.
So, is there a government agency or something that would tell you all this information, or
should I giggle now?
Yeah, I don't believe there are any government agencies anymore that protect the public interest. Period. Everybody's bought. We've talked to so many different agencies and tried to appeal to so many different people, and nobody wants to hear any of it. They don't want to hear any of it.
We report violations. We report things they do wrong according to their contract, which is supposed to make it null and void, and that they have to give it up. And they all say they'll look into it.
We've contacted the Department of Environmental Protection. We've contacted the Army Corps of Engineers.
The EPA, FERC.
FERC, repeatedly. Of course, FERC is the organization run by the fossil fuel industry to oversee the fossil fuel industry. So, I mean, appealing to FERC, I might as well just appeal to the worker down the road. It's the same thing. FERC is the ones that I don't think they've ever denied a permit to anybody. I think I just read that somewhere. They've never denied a permit to anybody. So, what they're regulating, I don't know. Everybody should have public safety and regulatory taken out of their titles, because none of them are doing anything for us.
Water management boards. We've been to water management board meetings where we found that they were sucking water directly out of the river to put in their water trucks to drive around to the other area to put in the drill to drill into the river. Meanwhile, the water management website tells us residents to fall back on our watering needs. We should only water once a week because we're in a drought condition and the river's very low. They can take 100,000 gallons on average per day. That's crazy. Nobody can watch them either because you can't be on their property.
We keep an eye on the FERC reports, the biweekly reports that the company gives. They have said nothing about public protest in these reports. I would think that would be a relevant issue. They talk about public discussions, and the public discussions are limited pretty much to people that call through the Sable Trail, through the Spectra pipe telephone number. If you call and lodge a complaint on the phone, and then they'll send somebody over to you, and that's what they like to say in these reports is, so and so complained, we sent somebody out, they're happy now. Even the reporting is milk toast. It's all show. Everything's show. I've become so discouraged and so disgusted with the way this country handles this stuff. That nobody's interested in the people.
And then there's the police action. I was one of the 14 arrested on the day we went to protest. By the time I got to the protest area, somebody had already locked themselves to the water truck and blocked the road, and the rest of us just kind of ducked under the truck to get to the other side because that's where he was. That's where that's where we get to the site where we hold our signs and we protest. And there was some police there. Then there were a lot more. They were all called because he had locked himself on the water truck, but the rest of us were just walking around with signs or posing for pictures or whatever. And we had our cars parked on the side of the road. And before we could leave, we were all packed up and stuff. 2 residents had come up to the road. Construction workers had talked to them. The police had talked with them. And before we could get out of our cars, one of the residents pulled around facing the opposite direction on the opposite side of the road and blocked us in. And we were kind of held hostage until they could just listen to the construction workers say, she did this, he did that, whatever, and they arrested all of us on their word. Not that the police saw, but on their word, the construction workers.
Because the arrest report says that the police saw it.
Yes, they lied on their police report. And so my latest foray is trying to find out how much money each county is getting from Sable Trail for. I want to know what they're protecting. I want to know which counties are the most volatile for hiding whatever it is they're hiding. It's pretty scary. There's a lot of money in this. They're paying off everybody.
What's the status of the arrests now?
They arrested us all and charged us with felony trespassing and disorderly conduct. I have never been in trouble in the law before. I got my first traffic ticket when I was 44 years old, and my first arrest now at 52. I used to believe in law enforcement, and I don't very much anymore. We had a lot of money we had to put out for bail. I was lucky and released on my own recognizance, but everybody else had bail. People who had bandanas because it was a really dusty, dry road got charged with wearing a mask while committing a felony, which added $5,000 to the bond. So it was a very expensive day.
It's $54,000 of bond money, of bail set. So it's $5,400 of bond money that we had to come up with right away.
3 cars were impounded at $253 each, $50 for the somebody to open up the impound facility on a Sunday. And so we still have $30 each person for processing and food. We have public defender's fees. We're going to have court costs. And most of the charges will probably be dropped. So where was I going with that? Oh, the no contact order is a real bugger because we were a very strong core group, and now we're not allowed to contact or organize and practice our First Amendment rights for I don't know how long. It might drag out 3 or 4 months. And I didn't do anything wrong.